Hey, good evening, fellow Texians. It's time for late night coffee talk. I have my coffee, and I wouldn't actually call this late, but it's the title. So what do you do, right? We used to do this. Didn't we do this later? Did we do this at like 10? I don't remember. I don't remember. It used to be late night, but it's not particularly late anymore. And I've had a little bit of withdrawals. I've been away from you guys for a while. Did not do last week because I was on the road, and honestly, I was on the road this week as well. But I made it home. Made a dash back here to the off White House, so we could have our long overdue chat. And look, it's casual Friday, a couple days early. Hope you guys don't mind. By the way, I know I'm going to get questions about this shirt because I always do. I've worn it like once before on a coffee talk. I always get questions about it. It's available in the TNM store. So if you go to tnm.me and hit the store button, you'll find it. All right. Let's I think before I say too much more, let's take care of some housekeeping. For those of you joining us for the first time, my name is Daniel Miller, and I'm president of the Texas Nationalist movement. And this is that time of the week where I take a little bit of a break, fire up the camera, fire up the microphone, grab a cup of coffee, and decompress. Right? I share what's going on in the TNM. You guys give me feedback via chat, and you have an opportunity to ask questions. And this week is no different, right? So there's a little crawler at the bottom. There's where you can connect with us at any time. And post your questions in chat or email them to what you see right there, coffeetalk@thnm.org. And time permitting, I will take your questions of any sort of general variety. You guys know that I do that. And but I particularly prefer questions related to the subject matter that we happen to be talking about tonight. But I'll, look, I'm as last night proved during that extended Q&A in Tyler, I am game for just about any round of questioning that you might have. So I'm cool with it. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you can be notified every time we go live, and you don't have to wait on an email or text message or whatever. You just, when we go live, you'll get a notification. Additionally, chat is active on the YouTube channel, and so you can post your questions in there, and of course chat with other viewers as well. Two YouTube channels are up tonight, right? The TNM's and my personal one. So either way, get over to one or the other, like and subscribe, do all the things. And of course, on the Facebook pages, you know what to do. Like it, share it, comment, and share is very particular. Share, I mean, it's very important. Share, because we've got to get the word out. If nothing else has been learned as of late, it is that the mainstream media, or pretty much media of any type, will jump through hoops to not have to talk about the fact that we are having success, right? That we've grown so large, that we've had success. They will talk all around it. They will do everything they can to not mention us. And so it's going to be up to you to help spread the good word. It's one of the reasons I stay on the road so much, and why I do late night coffee talk. And of course, for those of you watching us on the Roku app, hello. Wish you could chat with us, but it's not possible yet. Maybe one day, but that day is not today. All right, man. The shift in climate, driving from place to place to place, I think I'm just going to have to get on perpetual allergy medicine. I think it's just going to have to be that way. My voice is a little scratchy, so just bear with me tonight. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about obviously being on the road. I was going to be with you on here last Wednesday. Unfortunately, the hotel that we were at, because I have done these remote before. The internet at the hotel was not optimal for this sort of thing, so we just had to do without, and that's okay. Right. We had phenomenal meetings last week. We've had phenomenal meetings this week. The week is not over yet. And the schedule is just even more packed than you might imagine. So we're going to talk about some of the meetings that have been happening, the TEXIT meetings that I've been speaking at. Uh, we're going to talk about that a good bit tonight. Because I wish I could share pictures with you. They're all over social media, but I'm gonna paint some pictures with words if that's okay. We're gonna talk about the thing that people have been asking me about ever since yesterday morning. We're going to talk about the status of our lawsuit against Facebook and what happened yesterday morning with a very what was supposed to be a pretty routine thing. We'll talk about that as much as I can. I obviously can't talk about all of it, but we'll talk about some of it and kind of what that may mean moving forward. And then, of course, while I'm out and about doing all of my TEXIT things, uh, national divorce just breaks loose. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman from some state that is not Texas, decides to go on a social media rant in favor of states withdrawing from the union. And of course, got labeled national divorce. We're going to talk about that tonight. And just sort of not just the fallout, but just the very concept of national divorce. And some of you, it's kind of like how I set the bar low sometimes when I go speak to groups that are not ours. A good time will be had by most. That is exactly how I think our national divorce conversation is going to go. Because as you know, I'm pretty much a stickler for words and meaning, and we're going to deconstruct that. In the meantime, really interesting stuff. Got this gem in the mail today. I'm looking forward to this. Came across it randomly. Secession in the Sovereignty Game: Strategy and Tactics for Aspiring Nations. I'm looking forward to reading it and letting you know how it goes. I don't read a lot of stuff that treads well-worn ground, right? If one book explains it well, don't need to read 7 books on the same subject unless it adds something to the conversation. And so I found this book and I thought it was quite interesting, and I actually sent a picture of it today of the cover to our friend Dr. Matt Quartrup. You guys saw him on the webinar several weeks ago. If not, go check it out. And he kicks back. He goes, "Oh yeah, he's a good friend of mine." I'm like, "Dude, well, at least I could have gotten a discount. That book was like $45." So I would, he could have hooked the brother up or something, right? I mean, it was kind of crazy. So anyway, uh, before I tear off into any of the topics, obviously a ton of people are asking about what's going down with the email that went out, kind of what's the status of the TEXIT bill. So just to give you guys an idea, we have been in negotiation and discussion with state reps and state senators. Those discussions are ongoing, but ultimately the clock is ticking, right? And the deadline for bill filing is March the 11th. And it's not like the TEXIT bill hasn't been in play, right? It's effectively the same bill that was filed last session. With the exception of we corrected the ballot language. It was going to be corrected in by committee substitute last session, but it never got a committee hearing. And so we've been working overtime to get it filed. And, obviously, as we talked about during the election, elections have consequences. And there were some definite consequences for Texas supporters in the last election. It was pretty much a bloodbath. The only 2 surviving state reps that signed on to House Bill 1359 last time were State Representative Steve Toth and State Representative Brian Slayton. Of those 2, State Representative Brian Slayton signed the Texas First Pledge. And we've talked about this a couple of times on Coffee Talk, so I'm not going to regurgitate it. And it was also in the email that was sent out to supporters today. But there, in the Texas First Pledge, legislators who signed it, whether they were incumbents or noobs, whatever it was, when they signed off onto it, they signed off on a portion of the pledge that said if it is within their power, they will file or co-author the bill in every session in which they are elected. It's the pledge. And if you want to go see it, go to taketexasback.com and read the pledge. But we included the specific language related to this bill in the email that went out. And so the bill has indeed been on Representative Brian Slayton's desk for weeks now. He kicked it over to Ledge Council for us, which we're very appreciative of. But getting it into Ledge Council is not the same as filing it, right? We've got legislators that are lined up that are essentially saying, look, until a bill is filed, we're not going to commit one way or the other because we want to see what the bill says. We send them a copy of the bill and they say, that's great. File it. So we know that that's what it is. And then, then we'll make some commitments. And we've got some. We've got some that are ready to rock and roll. But what's left is we need it filed. And out of all of those legislators, State Representative Brian Slayton is the one who made a pledge. He made a promise to do so. So we are gently encouraging everyone via email. We're texting our supporters right now. Well, we stopped about 12 minutes ago, but it'll start back up and it'll go on all day tomorrow to ask every one of our supporters to reach out to Brian Slayton's office, call his office, and ask him to file the bill. Honor his word, carry out his pledge, and file the bill, and let us do the rest, right? We'll take care of the rest if he'll just file the bill, right? The bus pretty much drives itself. So, the good news is many of you have already done it. We've already received word from you guys that you've reached out to Brian's office, you left a voicemail, you're going to call tomorrow, but it's critical, right? The clock is ticking. So for those of you that are asking about that in chat, that's where it is. I wish I had better or more news for you related to the TEXIT bill, but obviously conversations that we're having with legislators that are ongoing are not going to be discussed on here, specifically who those people are. But understand that we're having conversations, but you need to be having those conversations too. They're your legislators. They're your representative and your senator. You have them. You should be having those conversations, and you should be having them rather regularly. And I don't mean just a phone call, a drive-by where you say, I want you to file the bill, or I want you to sign on the TEXIT bill, or I want to vote on TEXIT. I mean, have the conversation with them. We've provided you with tons of tools, right? If you go to the link that went out to everyone recently, if you go to tnm.me/let-Texas-decide, you can go there, find your reps, and do all the things that you need to do to be able to connect with them. You can get text for a letter. You can get a sample email. You can get their Twitter handles. You can tweet at them. You can email them. I mean, we've given you every possible tool. You key in your name and your email address, and then and where you live, and it will map you to those places and show you who your people are. So, it's like I have said previously, you can take a horse into the saloon, but you can't get him drunk. You got to go do your part. We're doing ours, but we need everybody because, as I said to the folks last night, 100% of the time, water defeats stone, given time and pressure. And if it's urgent, then our time is short, which means our pressure must be high. So you gotta turn up the juice. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. So that being said, if you did not get our email, be sure to check your spam folder. We've been getting lots of reports from people that email service providers are dumping our emails in spam folders. We're investigating that, but it appears to be yet again one more thing that we have to contend with, right? One more thing, one more stumbling block between us and you. Which is one of the reasons that we launched the TNM mobile app, right? It's one of the reasons that we encourage everyone to download the TNM mobile app. Go to the Apple App Store or go to Google Play Store, search for TNM.me or Texas Nationalist Move. You will find the app, download it. It allows us to communicate with you directly. We can communicate with one another and not have to worry about the third-party censors slapping a muzzle on us. So interesting stuff. Speaking of, hey, I already covered some of these. I'm looking at the questions. So John Lindsay says, big question. What's the update on the filing of the bill? You just got it. Call Brian. Randy says, is there a plan to schedule a specific day for all to call Representative Slayton's office to encourage him to file the bill? Yes, it's happening right now. Calls already starting this afternoon, and we'll go on all day tomorrow and right into Friday, which on Friday I'll be at the Capitol. So if anything breaks loose, I'll believe you me, you will not have to ask. You will know. You will be the first people to know if something breaks loose. Marilyn says, what can we do to get Satan to file our text bill? Look, I'll tell you, I'm one of those people who does not believe we should have to beg or bug elected officials to do what they have sworn an oath to do or have promised to do. And we shouldn't have to beg or bug people to do the right thing. And so I like Brian. Brian he's a great guy. He's carrying a lot of bills that I like. He carries some that has some significant crossover into the TNM's mission. But ultimately the pledge, it's kind of it's in total, right? It's everything that's a part of that pledge. We don't give B pluses and B minuses, right? It's a past situation. And I think when we launched the pledge, we had that conversation amongst ourselves here and with a ton of people in the organization, a lot of the supporters, and almost to the person, they were sick and tired of being promised things during election season that did not come to fruition when they were elected. We have, I think, as Texans, we're sick and tired of having legislators or really any elected officials that campaign one way and govern another. So it's just one of those things that people are going to look at it and say, we're being too hard, we're being too tough. But let's be honest, we're not going to get any significant change by letting folks slide on their commitments. It's just like I told them the other night in Webster. They played a video. We'll talk about all those speaking engagements over the last couple of weeks. But they played a video. We were at the True Texas Project. And they played a video, oddly enough, of Representative Brian Slayton talking about the fight that he and Tony Tinderholt put up against the no Democrat chairs issue in the House. And they talked about how no Democrat chairs was a legislative priority. And this idea that the priority said no Democrat chairs, but yet some Democrat chairs were appointed by the Speaker. But because it was a handful fewer than the session before, somehow it was victory. And look, I'll be the first person to tell you, sometimes a shift in the Overton window is great, right? But by changing the dialogue and shifting it over so that it becomes something that we talk about. But let's be very clear here. As elected officials, they put on team jerseys, they sign pledges, they say that they're going to stand up for platform planks and legislative priorities. And those things are not generally written in squish language. Right, they're not written in language that allows for that sort of thing. So we'll take the Dem chairs as an example. It said no Democrat chairs. No means zero. No means zero. And because no means zero, anything above zero means that they failed in their brief. They failed the task, right? And it's kind of the same thing with these pledges, right? When they make these pledges to people, there is an expectation from the people who see that they sign the pledge that they will do the things therein in the manner in which they are written. And it's because many of us have been allowed to, we've lowered our expectations. I mean, let's be honest. Our expectations are generally pretty low when it comes to elected officials. And, even though those expectations are low, it is part and parcel our fault that these things don't get done, because when they fail a task, we fail to do our part and hold them accountable for failing to do that task in the next election cycle, or hold them accountable in the interim by having our voices heard and making absolutely certain that they understand how displeased we will be if they do not do as they said they were going to do. If I opened up a tin of tuna and in it was a pile of dog crap, I think I would be upset. I wouldn't be looking at it going, "Oh, look, I got a free can." Right? I mean, that's just not how we're wired. So why do we treat these elected officials any differently? Right? So look, I'm very hopeful that Brian's gonna do the right thing. I know he's overwhelmed and overloaded. But the bottom line is, for any legislator who is listening to their constituents right now, who are wanting a vote on TEXIT, the bill is easy. It really has two parts. It costs no money to implement the bill whatsoever because the election will be held during the normal constitutional amendment election, right? And from that standpoint, the supporting material is quite simple. It's Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution, something they all took an oath to. But to supplement that, the TNM has put together the strongest legislative team that we have ever had. We've got subject matter experts on military issues, on independence referenda, including the number one global expert on independence referenda. He's helping us with this, right? We've got subject matter experts on the economic aspects of it. We've got all of our bases covered. So when I say that the bus pretty much drives itself, I mean, for these legislators, right? We still got a lot of work to do. We've got to make our SMEs available. We've got to make sure our legislative team is out there working on these other legislators, and that work continues on. We've got to make sure that we are rousing popular sentiment, that we are having constituents contact their legislators to express their desire to see this bill pass and to have a vote in November 2023 on the issue of whether or not Texas should reassert its status as an independent nation. To explain, so when I say the bus drives itself, I mean that it's us that does the heavy lifting. We're the ones that go out there and do the things that need to be done in support of this. All they have to do is file it and have just a general understanding of what the bill does. And then the rest of it is ours, and we'll take it from there. So understand that this ask is not difficult. It's not. We're not asking them to pour in, 20 additional staffers or any of that. We're there as the Texas Nationalist movement, who has been around since 2005, working for Texas independence. We have all those pieces in place. We have all those answers. We have all that research. We have everything that needs to be done. We've got the experts. We've got the field organization. We've got the support base around the state. We've got everything that needs to be done. All we want is just a chance, a shot. And that begins by having someone who pledged that they would file the legislation do so. So, you know what you need to do tomorrow. You can even do it tonight. Check your email box. In your inbox, you're going to find the contact information for Brian Slayton. If you can't find it there, you can head over to our website. Right, we got a special spot just for that. Hang on, I think I literally even have a graphic for it. Oh my God, there it is. Head over right there to tnm.me/legislature. Right, find your legislators. But you can go there to the House directory, find Brian Slayton, and go get them, Tiger. Make those calls. There's no need to be snippy, right? You can be polite and be firm, but you need to let Brian know that if he files the bill, you're going to have his back. That you want this, and that he's the guy. I told him when we were having some of our initial conversations, he asked why. He says, "Why me?" And I said, two reasons. Number one, I know you're a fighter, but number two is you signed on to 1359 last time, and I believe that there should be some continuity from what Kyle Biederman did last session into the bill that gets filed this session. And so I believe he's the guy. I believe he's the one that should do it. I believe he's the one that can do it. I think all he's got to do is just march down there tomorrow and slap that thing down and say, I'm filing it. Bada boom, bada bing. Then my visit becomes much easier on Friday. So, okay, that is fun. So I talked about that a little bit longer than I intended to, but that's okay. Well, let's get on to let me see if there's any other questions real quick before I start talking about the Facebook suit, because I know that's coming up. Hey, Paul, thank you for your super chat. I failed to mention that super chat is active on YouTube. You can donate there, or you can go to tnm.me/donate and make a contribution. Wow, man, my allergies are kicking my tail. It's ridiculous. Thanks, Paul. Okay. Wow. Yeah, a couple. They queued this up. I don't. There's not even a question, but I just put it up here because I want to laugh. Every major company would leave Texas if TEXIT happened. Well, Will, let me teach you a lesson that I taught everybody recently, which is much like people like you come to us and expect us to uphold every assertion that we make, and we do, because that's just how cool we are and how awesome we are and how organized we are, right? We're going to do the same. So when you make some outrageous claim that every major company will move out of Texas, bring your evidence. Show me one major company, one, that has said if TEXIT happens, they're out of here. Show me one. I won't wait. I got coffee talk to do, right? But you can't, and that's sort of the point, right? Just like when these people make these assertions that TEXIT is unconstitutional. Show me in the Constitution. Well, it's illegal. Show me the law. Well, the Civil War settled it. Really? Prove it. Well, Texas versus White, the Supreme Court said. Have you read it? Probably not. And if you haven't, then you probably don't understand why Jacobson v. Massachusetts destroys Texas versus White. And then you have this garbage like this. Every major company will move out. Who said? You said. That's who said. And I don't know who you are, but I suspect you are not a major company. I'm just a wild guess, right? Just pulling it out of the ether. Just a wild guess. You are not a representative of a major company or a major corporation. Just a guess. All right, let's get to Stacy's question. Can you speak on the Meta court hearing yesterday? Yes, I can. It was funny. And like I said, I can't really speak to it much, but I can tell you some things, okay? So what was scheduled yesterday was supposed to be a fairly routine kind of conference where we'd go into the courtroom and we'd kind of lay out what the schedule of the case is, okay? And when I say the schedule of the case, I'm essentially talking about, okay, this is when, we have to have filings and responses on all the open motions right now, the motion to dismiss, the motion to transfer venue to California, the motion to remand back to state court. And then, if all of those fail, then, we have to take into account a few other things, right? There's discovery where, we ask for documents from them. They ask for documents from us, interrogatories. We send them questions. They send us questions, depositions, where we get to put people down and interview them on camera and all that kind of stuff ahead of time, ahead of the actual court case, actually going to trial. And if you're not aware, in federal court, that is a pretty lengthy process. I mean, it's long. I mean, I'm going to admit that going into this, I did not anticipate how long it would be. But one of the things that went down was we had our conference with, we got to sit in, which was really cool. Got to sit in with the judge and, of course, our attorney Paul Davis and Meta's local attorney here in the Beaumont area, and of course all the clerks. And while they discussed a lot of the interesting points of scheduling this case, and some of the things that came up that I thought were very interesting. Number one is the federal judge is taking this case very seriously. I mean, very seriously, in the sense that he wanted to have the scheduling conference not in the courtroom, but literally in his chambers, so we could talk about these things, kind of unpack them a little bit more, which I thought was rather interesting. But I thought it was a really nice gesture, if I'm being honest. Um, but the judge very knowledgeable on Texas history. I found that out. I'm sure I could share that, and Judge Troncalli will not think badly of me for sharing that. A phenomenal student of history. But that being said, there were some interesting observations that I've got that I think I can share. Number one is, as I said, he's taking this case very, very, very seriously. He understands, the judge understands the implications of this case. The fact that the attorney general filed an amicus brief in the case was kind of a big deal, and the fact that it really handles a lot of fundamental issues related to our inherent and inalienable rights. Obviously, free speech being at the core of it, but we also know that Meta is effectively going after our belief in the right of Texans to govern themselves, the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish your form of government. And so they made pretty much no bones about it. It became very clear in that meeting that Meta has no intention of ever wanting to settle this case. What they want to do is they just want to grind us to powder. They want to outspend us, and they want to bury us in paper. And Paul's been quite generous with us. This has been a very weighty case, but that really, I think, is their intention. They want to try to attack us on every front, throw a bunch of crap up against the wall and see what sticks, and hopefully they will just bury us in legal fees. I mean, that's really what they want, and we're committed. Look, if I got to start giving plasma, that's what's going to go down, because at this point, given what I heard out of Meta's attorneys, there's not a snowball's chance in hell I would ever drop this suit, not one. And I don't think you guys would want us to. We've got to fight this thing all the way to the end. That being said, one of the other key takeaways is that this case, and one of the reasons that the timeline is going to be so long on it, is that there are, in fact, two cases that are pending before the Supreme Court right now that will affect this case and whether it continues on. The very day that we were meeting in the judge's chambers, the Supreme Court was hearing oral arguments over Section 230 protections for these platforms. And if you don't know what that is, it's too lengthy to get into on here tonight. But the bottom line is that it's really key to Meta's argument. They claim on one hand that they are a platform, they are a neutral platform. They don't put their thumb on the scales, and so they should be protected as such. But then they jump over and claim, oh no, we're a publisher, we can put what we want to and set all these guidelines, and AKA they can censor people like us. So they want to have it both ways. So that case, I was having, I think, oral arguments that very day. And then there is some discussion that the law that we are suing Meta under is probably going to be, there will be very likely a Supreme Court decision on its constitutionality by June. So, we've kind of got to pace this thing to account for any changes that those two particular cases may make. A good example: if the Supreme Court comes back in June and strikes down our law and also Florida's similar law, then we've got no case, because the law that we sued under no longer exists. And so we're back to square one. And so, no need to go to all the expense of discovery and depositions and things of that nature. If we're trying to sue in a private cause of action under a law that no longer exists. So, we had to take those things into consideration. One other takeaway, and I'm not going to get into any of the specific conversations that were had between counsel and the judge, because we were there merely as observers. But one very clear takeaway was the exuberance on the part of Meta's counsel to take a deposition from me. And so I'm rather looking forward to having the opportunity to let those guys grill me in front of a camera as though I'm some sort of hayseed. I think they are perhaps underestimating. I think they may be underestimating us, which is fine. I mean, there were two opportunities presented to them to settle this case, and well, I guess technically three, and they have said, no way, they're not going to do it. They're going to fight this thing out because they believe that they should have the ability to determine whether or not you can post links to TEXIT news and information. So we fight it out because we have to. This has implications now. It has implications for the TEXIT campaign. I mean, I'll say this. I don't think it's any coincidence that it happened starting about right about a month before the general election, and that Facebook voluntarily removed the restriction after the general election. And I'll leave it at that. Okay, so that's where it is, and of course we'll keep you posted if anything changes in that regard. But it's a slog; it's going to be. And if you have an opportunity, we are getting ready to launch a website and a donation page specifically for the campaign. We're working with Paul Davis, or for the lawsuit. We're working with Paul Davis to get that set up because. We're going to have to raise specifically for this and just for this. We can't keep dipping into general revenue. We've got a TEXIT battle to win, and so bottom line is, be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, if you'd like to donate and help us offset some of the legal fees we've already had, we sure would appreciate it. Head over to tnm.me/donate, tnm.me/donate. Oh, look, there it is at the bottom of the screen right there. All right, Kevin. Hey, thank you for your super chat, sir. Thank you, Texans and Daniel. Missed the coffee talk last week when it wasn't on. I missed it too. That's why we weren't together. It's terrible. But I know y'all were busy doing good. Man, I really appreciate those encouraging words. Thank you. This is the time that comes around. I mean, it's like it. I think maybe, we had a bit of a break off the road. But honestly, since before Kyle filed the bill, we've been on the road a lot. I mean, an awful lot. I mean, between the TEXIT tour and then the follow up to the TEXIT tour, and then the campaign, and then I mean, it's just like we've never stopped. So I appreciate y'all's patience. I do this when I can. But I happen to be with you guys most Wednesdays, and we get to have these conversations. And I, even when I have to do it from the hotel, sometimes it's just not technically possible. And last week was an example of that. So let's talk about that, because I'm gonna share some things with you guys that are just. If you haven't been out to any of the events or meetings in the last couple of weeks, something is stirring. Even without the bill being filed, something is stirring, and I don't think it's anything that's going to go away until we win TEXIT. It is. I don't know how to describe it. Right? I've heard other people describe what they're experiencing, but I'll give it to you from my point of view. Right? So last week we started off in McKinney, and we're speaking. These are not TNM meetings that we're speaking at, right? There are other organizations where we've been invited, which, by the way, we're booking speaking right now into September, right? So if you're a local coordinator and you've got a meetup, or you're with another organization, get in while you can fit in. I mean, that's just kind of where it's at. So that said, we start off in McKinney, and of course, our good friend up there, Stephen Callis, invited us up to speak on the Constitution, which I did to a certain extent, especially one very special section of it, Article 1, sections 1 and 2. But there was something interesting happening in that room, because I had been told ahead of time that that room would probably not have a lot of people that were Texiteers, right? They were not already on the Texit train. And I kind of made up my mind that I was just going to go in there, not prepared, but also not going to give some stock stump speech, and just kind of go where I felt led to go. Uh, and to see the reaction of some of those folks in that room, I mean, it was, to me, I don't know where everyone else was, but for me, it was a bit, there was an electricity in the room. And it was palpable. I mean, I could see, as I watched the faces, I could see minds and hearts being changed on this issue. I saw an awareness of the sense of urgency that we have, and an understanding that half measures are not going to cut it. That the only way that we're going to get out of this mess is to reclaim our right of self-government, reassert our status as an independent nation. I mean, it was, watching those faces. I mean, I could see it, the moments that the light bulbs were clicking on, and it was incredible. When I do things like that off the cuff, I kind of feel like, I come off the stage, and or out of the little speaking area, and I feel wrung out. I mean, it's like being a rolled up tube of toothpaste, man. You kind of, you lay it all out there, and you see what happens, and you pour it all out there, in the hope that something that you say will resonate with those people that are on the bubble, or maybe even thoroughly against what we do. And so, there was a good crowd. We were told that that was the most attendance that they had had at that meeting in a very, very long time, if not ever. Okay, so that was good news. A big thank you to KD Sims. Of course, Dan was there running protection for me. But KD Sims and his colleagues showed up there because, I mean, look, you can't make this stuff up. There literally were threats from literal Satanists that they were going to come disrupt the meeting. And so Katie showed up to do security there, alongside Dan and, of course, his colleague. And the whole time I'm just thinking, don't threaten me with a good time, right? I mean, but bring it. I mean, I don't care. But it was great. So thank you, Stephen, for facilitating that, making it happen. Then we had Waxahachie, right? So we were a guest of True Texas Project in Ellis County. And the place was, I think, Blue Bonnet Barbecue. Phenomenal place. They have a meeting room there, and it was jam packed. It was, they had to bring in more chairs. It was standing room only, and it was another room that was about a 60-40 split. Right, we had about 60%, like out and out Texiteers, and then we had about 40% that were maybe kind of on the bubble. But that's not how it ended up when it was all over with. We brought a lot of people on the team Texan, and here was the evidence. Kathy Ponce, who was running that meeting over there. Bless you, Kathy, for inviting us and getting us there. But that is in Brian Harrison's district. He's a state rep, and his district director was there. And after we spoke, Kathy got up there and said, "Look, Brian Harrison won't even meet with Daniel Miller and the TNM to talk about the Texit bill. Here's our opportunity to fix that. I want you all to call him, and I will go have I'll go." And she said, "I'll go have a sit-in in his office. I've done it before." She said, "My record is 2 days." And, but what was interesting was there were people there that were in the audience, because remember, this is a packed place, that already had Brian Harrison's cell phone number. And so they were steadily texting him the whole time. Why won't you meet with Daniel Miller? Why, I want to vote on TEXIT. They're texting him left and right. Well, lo and behold, the next day, his office calls and we had a meeting set with Brian Harrison coming up on the calendar. So, it's one of those things that, there was again, something afoot. There was just something that was there. And again, I went in, no standard stump speech, none of that stuff. Just I went how I felt like I needed to go, and I just talked until I said all that I could say, all that I felt like I needed to say, and then let the people make their decision. And it was, look, our local leadership, our district leadership, people from other areas from the TNM were there. And they can attest to how well received and how many people they were able to connect and communicate with. So, I mean, again, just a phenomenal opportunity. So then back to Nederland for a couple of days. I got to, before I left, got to uh, have a meeting with State Rep Tony Tenderholt. Had a great conversation with him. He loves what we're doing. He won't file the bill, but he loves what we're doing. And once it's filed, would definitely probably sign on. I think I'm not going to say 100% because you never know what happens, but I think he would sign on. But had a phenomenal conversation with him, and then boom, out the door, back here for a couple days, then back out on the road. Right. So last night, let's start with Monday. Right. So again, we were guests at the True Texas Project down there in Webster, right, the Bay Area. And again, phenomenal turnout. I mean, that was a big room, and there was a phenomenal turnout, and it was kind of the same thing, right? It was get up there, kind of lay it all out, and see what happens. And sure enough, when it was all over with, the table and our local leaders were covered up. They connected with a ton of people. And we've got a lot of fired up people down there in the Bay Area that were not previously connected to the TNM that are coming into the fight. They're ready to come in. They're ready to win. And then we got, we had Tyler last night. And if you haven't seen the pictures from Tyler, it was a joint meeting between the TNM and Grassroots America, We the People. Joanne Fleming and those guys down there have been phenomenal up in Tyler. And it was great because I was speaking in the very same building, the very same place that I crossed my proverbial line in the sand in 1996. And I will tell you, there were about 165 plus people in attendance at that thing. The room was packed, and it was, again, electric. They turned me loose and just let me talk, and I answered a ton of questions at the end. But again, the excitement was there. I mean, you go look at the pictures, not only of the room, but of the people that signed letters while they were there to go to their state rep and state senator. I mean, it was huge. So, look, everywhere we're going right now, we're packing places out. People want TEXIT. They want a vote on TEXIT. They're sick and tired of being told no by their elected officials. And so, it's been just this amazing thing because we've seen it time and time and time again. The more we are on the road, the more the crowds grow. And as they grow, the more the sense of urgency grows and the excitement grows, and people understand that the only way that they're going to fix this mess is to stop hacking at the branches and strike the root and make Texas a free, self-governing, independent nation again. Exciting stuff. So, look, I'm going to encourage you. If you are not plugging into your local meetups, if you are not inviting people to local meetups to get plugged in and learn more about what we're doing, if you're not looking at the calendar and looking for the nearest place you can come to connect with us, if you're not referring people to the website so they can get information, you're doing them a disservice, and you're doing the movement a disservice. There is something afoot. This is truly a movement, but there's more to it than just a political and social movement that's happening right now. And you're going to want to plug in, and you're going to want other people to plug in. If you're going to these meetings and you're going to these events, do yourself and those people a favor and scoop up, bring 2 or 3 or 4 more people. I'm seeing it at these meetings I'm going to where people are telling me, hey, I came, you've seen me before, but I brought these 2 people here. You got to meet them. And I'm seeing that over and over and over. Last night in Tyler, I saw a man that I haven't seen in probably 20 years. I'm first met that man when I was 19 years old. Okay. Who turned up, just happened to show up, and so many other people. We're going to win this thing, folks. We're absolutely going to win it. But get plugged in. Look, yeah, let me go ahead and share this, and then I'm going to get to some of your questions. And I got to get to this national divorce thing. This is what happens when I'm gone for a week, right? So be sure you head over to the TNM calendar at tnm.me/events. Right, here's our events and meetings. Here's tons of meetups. But I'm going to draw your attention to a couple of things on here really quickly. Number one is on March the 2nd. Angela Watuski, the group out there in Wahlberg, have put on a Texas Independence celebration in cooperation with a lot of local businesses. Look, if you're within driving distance of Wahlberg, go show your support. I mean, this is the kind of thing that we want to encourage. We want communities to be doing Texas Independence celebrations. We want a big do. We want these guys to do it up big, and it starts with supporting the ones that are being done, that are being formed right now. And so congratulations, Angela, and to your team out there in Wahlberg. But please, if you're within driving distance, head over there and plug in. Additionally, something you're going to want to know, I'm about to let the cat out of the bag if you didn't catch it in the email. We're going to have on March 4th, we're going to have a Texas Independence weekend celebration in New Braunfels. As a matter of fact, we're going to be at Riley's Tavern, and our special guest is going to be none other than the aforementioned Dr. Matt Quartrup, that internationally renowned expert on independence referenda, is going to be our special guest. He is coming in from the UK. He'll be flying in on the 1st. He's going to be speaking at the University of Texas on March the 2nd on Texas Independence Day. But he's going to be with us for several days, all the way through, I think, the 8th or 9th. But March 4th is going to be one of your opportunities to catch him. If you can head out to New Braunfels in the Hill Country, you're going to have a real low-key opportunity to meet and greet with the good doctor at Riley's Tavern, and it's a phenomenal place. On top of that, you're going to get to see our executive director, Nate Smith, pull out his guitar and sing some songs for everyone. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We just got that on the calendar. So be sure you head over there, RSVP. We need to know how many people are coming. But then on the 5th, if you are anywhere within driving distance of Garland, we're going to have the doc there in a very special, intimate setting for some remarks and a very limited Q&A. Because of where we're doing this, and we want to make sure that we have every seat at this thing filled, we're charging a minimal $5 ticket charge, just so we know that the RSVPs are serious, right? So get in while you can. The tickets are first come, first serve. There are only 55 spots available. So if you're within driving distance of Garland, go get them, Tiger. It's going to be a lot of fun. So you're going to want to be there. Trust and believe. All right. That being said, there's all kinds of things on the calendar. So, you got opportunities to plug in and, make it happen, folks. You can do this. Okay. Let me get down to okay, tell you what, let's do this. Let me take a couple of these questions and then, yeah, let me take this. When we get our bill through the House and Senate by a slim margin, what chance do you give Governor Abbott to sign it so we're on the November ballot? If you're to quote when Dr. Q was on here, he made a statement that I put it in the most Texan terms possible. So I'll throw it back at you this way. If your elected officials are a windsock, then be the wind. And so if we are making enough noise publicly on this and mounting the pressure, then the odds are high that he's going to sign it regardless of what his personal feelings are, because let's be honest, I think many of them are devoid of personal feelings. They just want to do whatever is necessary to get reelected. Also, same person question: when will you be in San Antonio again? Hopefully soon. I think there are some dates getting added to the calendar right now, and one of them will be in San Antonio. So we'll cover that. Jake says, I have a question. Can you describe our opposition? Yes, not very bright. Describe the Texans who are against the TIRA. Again, not very bright. Not the establishment politicians in Austin, but the standard, hardworking, everyday person. Who are they? By and large, and you have to remember, being against TEXIT and being against the referendum are two different things. They're two different issues. Even if someone doesn't agree with TEXIT, they should, at a minimum, be able to agree that we should be able to debate, discuss, and vote on the issue. It's pure Article 1, Section 2. Okay. But, all kidding aside, I don't know who those people are. Typically, they're people who do not understand how this works at all. They don't understand the issues surrounding it. They don't understand the mess that we're in, or they have prioritized sentimentality over their inalienable rights, and that's unfortunate for them, because at some point their sentiment will indeed snuff out generations of freedom, liberty, and independence. So that's the best I can give you on a short notice. Maybe we'll do an entire program on that. Okay, so final thing. So I made a mention a moment ago at the very beginning of this. I talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene's national divorce comments, and so I would love to get into this more. Maybe I'll talk about it next week on Coffee Talk in more depth. But I'll give it to you this way. In a world where the opposition wants to control the dictionary so they can control your behavior, words matter more than ever, right? You will hear me nitpick all the time about state, nation, and country, and how people interchange those words, but they are very different things. And when they talk about America versus the United States of America, and I have to remind people those are two very different things. America is a set of principles, if you want to talk about it in the terms they're talking about, as opposed to just kind of the land underneath. It is a very different thing than the United States of America, which is a political and economic institution that is embodied in the federal government. These words have meanings to them. And so when I see, the phrase national divorce, the first thing that happens to me is I get this visceral reaction of they don't understand how this works at all. When Marjorie Taylor Greene, first off, let me just go ahead and say, I love any opportunity to have the conversation. And if this, kicks over the rock and makes the worms wiggle and it makes the conversation happen, that is great. But at the end of the day, national divorce is a slogan, and it's not a plan or a path. This idea of a red state, blue state division is not grounded in the reality of how we are constructed. It's just not. And so, when you have this term national divorce, it presupposes that the United States of America is a nation, and we know that it is not. The United States of America is a political institution that is comprised of independent sovereign states. There is no let's go to Congress and say red states and blue states separate. That's not how it works. States are sovereign polities, and each one has to make that decision on their own. Texas has to decide for Texas. California has to decide for California. New York has to decide for New York. New Hampshire has to decide for New Hampshire. Vermont has to decide for Vermont. Alaska has to decide for Alaska. Florida has to decide for Florida. Do you get the point? I don't want to have to do this 50 times, right? But each one of them, as a sovereign political entity, must make their decision. Do we stay or do we go? Now, what happens on the other side of that is also up to those individual states. If those individual states agree to surrender their sovereignty yet again, stupid move, and join some other union, then, whatever happens, happens. But that is ultimately a decision for them to make. and whatever the shape of that is. And to any of these people, so national divorce is a slogan. It is not a plan. It is not a path, right? But on the flip side of this, the opposition out there that have come out fangs bared and started all of the, you're calling for civil war. No, no one's calling for civil war. We're calling for states to reclaim their independence because the federal government is facilitating a civil war, much like they're facilitating an invasion on our southern border. They are the ones that are forcing it to happen. And you know what's interesting? I literally talked about this in 2011 in my book, Line in the Sand. I talked about it. We either break away, we become self-governing independent nation, or the central government will get stronger and we will get balkanization. Those fractures and splits that don't obey state lines and don't obey sovereign polities, and it gets into just some nasty civil war grossness. And that is what they want. Rather than devolving power back to the states, which they have been told to do. And and I say they've been told to do that because of all these really strong fist-shaking resolutions by these state legislators. You better not touch our sovereignty. What a load of crap, right? They've been told, but they haven't listened. At the end of the day, the only thing that will ever get the federal government or the federal system's attention is when states like Texas allow their citizens to go to the polls in a free, fair, full election that is after a very open and public debate that is heard around the world. And then the people decide that they want to reassert their status as an independent nation. To all of these people out there that say that, well, I don't want Texas because I want the federal government to fix itself, understand that outside of some impetus like Texas making a decision that it wants to be independent, the federal government will never take a step to fix itself. And it probably won't then either. Don't hold your breath that the federal government is going to catch religion all of a sudden and obey the Constitution. It's not going to happen. I mean, I've heard this crap for decades now, and I'm sure it was going on for decades before. They are not going to get back in that box. You rub the lamp, you let the genie out, and they're not going back in. And you can't stuff them back in. So we got to do what we got to do. If we believe what we say we believe, then we have to reclaim our right of self-government because it's the only way we're ever going to protect those things that we hold the most dear. It's the only way. Our principles, our way of life, our economic system, the belief in rule of law, constitutional republic, a belief that we should have strong borders and sensible immigration, a belief that our national defense should actually be defending our nation as opposed to defending other nations, that we should have a sound monetary policy and a sound monetary system. Those things are gone in the system that we're in. But if you want them, there is a path, and it's called TEXIT. It's called the independence of Texas. So that being said, I'm very happy for the discussion about national divorce. I think it is also pretty adorable that guys like Michael Malice are out there talking about how I've been talking about this since 2017. It's like, dude, those are rookie numbers. 1996, brother. Ring me up. Let's have a conversation. Wow. So anyway, stay tuned on that. I'm sure that conversation is not going to die down anytime soon. I mean, it's just happening, right? So, fun stuff. All right. Well, look, I've gone a little bit over time. I hope you guys don't mind, but I had a lot to cover. I mean, a lot to cover. And it's been a bit of a couple of weeks. So I'm excited to be back with you. I am anticipating being here with you next week. I think, hang on, next Wednesday. That is the 1st. So yeah, I will probably be here, but I may be remote. I don't know for sure, but we'll meet. I promise. We'll do a coffee talk as long as I've got internet. We'll be together. Okay. So I think it's time that we bring this thing to a fine point and we get back to work, right? Because Texas is not going to free itself. So that being said, if you have not already pledged your support, head over to tnm.me/vote. That's tnm.me/vote. And be sure to pledge your support today. And if you would like to become a member of the organization, a full-blown, full-fledged, dues-paying member, head over to tnm.me/join. That is tnm.me/join. And then, of course, we always need volunteers. Look, if you're already in it to win it, right, and you want to help shoulder some of this burden, head over to tnm.me/volunteer. Many hands make light work, and we need as many hands as possible. And let's not forget, our online response corps is doing a phenomenal job out there on social media. If you're a social media junkie, you spend a lot of time over there and know your way around, head over to tnm.me/ORC. That's tnm.me/org. Join our online response corps. And then remember, if you'd like to make a donation to our Facebook lawsuit, head over to tnm.me/Facebook suit. And we'll have that other page lined up ASAP. All right. In the meantime, I will leave you, as I do every week and in every speech, with not my words, but the words of Sam Houston, right? When Sam Houston said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now. And the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone. Let's go win.
Texas, our Texas, all hail the mighty state. Texas, our Texas, so wonderful, so great. Boldest and grandest, standing every test. Oh, empire wide and glorious, you stand supremely blessed. God bless you, Texas, and keep you brave and strong, that you may grow in power and worth throughout the ages long. Texas, oh Texas, your freeborn single star sends out its radiance to nations near and far. Emblem of freedom, it sets our hearts aglow with thoughts of San Jacinto and glorious Alamo. God bless you, Texas, and keep you brave and strong, that you may grow in power and worth throughout the ages long.